Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. On today's episode, we're going to talk about this Milwaukee M18 cordless compact 2-gallon quiet compressor. We've had it for plenty of months. We've used it on plenty of jobs and did a bunch of different things with it. So we'll go over some of the detail and things that we found and maybe some of our experiences. So stay tuned. All right, you guys, so this right here is Milwaukee's first compact cordless air compressor designed for like use with nailers and things like that. They make like air inflators and things for tires and stuff. But anyways, this is a 2-gallon cordless compact quiet air compressor. It's portable. It kind of runs under M18 battery platform, and this tank is a steel tank, okay? It weighs in roughly around 31.2 pounds, and its max PSI is 135 PSI. It's rated at 1.2 SCFM at 90 PSI. The pump style is oil-free, and the regulator is like a single turn regulator. Also, the drain valve is also a single turn, kind of like a ball drain valve, okay? So let's go over some of the marketing stuff. The marketing stuff says this is quiet, roughly rated at 68 dBA. If you know what that, if you've been around compressors, you kind of know that's pretty quiet for a compressor. There's loud compressor and things like that. You know, the things that are loudest ones are kind of like either the gas run ones, depending on if you're inside or whatnot, which is a bad idea. Don't run that gas stuff inside. Or like the pancake ones, those are just really loud. So this one is a battery powered oilless compressor, but it's rated at 68 dBA. We'll go over how they kind of got it a little bit quiet and things like that, but that's most of the marketing stuff. It runs on their M18 platform, and it can do, they claim 1600 nails per charge, and that's with a 12-volt battery. If you use a 5 amp hour battery, it's rated at roughly around 600 nails per charge, okay? So this compressor is an interesting compressor, mainly because, you know, most people who are doing, I want to say like construction or production type framing, they're not going to be running something like this, right? This is going to be really aimed at like those finished carpenters, right? Or maybe you kind of have like the small odd jobs and things that you really need, or you just have like a small tool that you really need that doesn't have a cordless option yet, or maybe it's kind of useful for people who are trying to winterize pipes or pressure test pipes or whatever it may be. So that's kind of what it's really aimed for, okay? So with that being said, let's bring you in closer, and then we'll really go over some of the details, and then we'll show you some of its performance, all right? All right, you guys, so this is the front, this is the top of the compressor. Depending on how you look at it, you know, it's kind of depending on your perspective or not. But it's got like this nice roll cage around it, which is kind of interesting because it doesn't kind of cover the entire thing, but it does protect, for instance, like the battery, if it's in here, it won't stick out enough that it will not go past the roll cage. This is a 6 amp, high output 6 amp hour battery. See, it fits in just fine. This roll cage will protect it. Let's take a high output 12 amp hour battery, and the roll cage will still protect it. I mean, it comes really close, like it's kind of like touching almost like the front part of this. If you dropped it really hard and hit this, it'll probably cause some problems, but the roll cage will generally protect this, okay, for the most part of it. All right, so here's the front and top. Like I said, there's got a big on and off button. Most of these hoses seem to be good quality rubber hoses with like the cinch clamps, the stainless steel cinch clamps on it. You know, kind of like those cinch clamps, like the, what do you call it? Like the stainless steel cinch clamps you would use on like PEX piping and things like that. It's kind of got that on it, all right? So this compressor is actually very interesting, mainly because, let me prop this up for you guys here. If you look at it, okay, so this is the top or part of the compressor or whatnot, right? So here's a tank pressure gauge. It goes up to about 135, okay? But this is the regulator, all right? So the regulator is one dial that you can use, the smooth spinning dial that kind of you can turn to whatever pressure you want, but this regulated pressure does not have a gauge attached to it, meaning if you wanted to dial it in at exactly, let's just say 35 PSI, okay? Here's 30 and here's 50, okay? So you're gonna kind of have to guess and say, okay, let me drop this here and say I think that's 35, right? And depending on what angle you're really looking at it from can really throw you off too also. So you kind of have to guess this is 35, this is 40, 45, 50, right? So you're really guessing. I mean, if you had some specific need, or you had like a sprayer, obviously you probably wouldn't want to use it with a sprayer because it's not rated for something like that, but some kind of specialty tool that needed exactly, let's just say 35 PSI or something like that. You can't really get that because there is no gauge attached to this, and this is the first air compressor that I've seen or even used that doesn't have an output gauge for the tank, for the regulated output pressure. Okay, so this is kind of good, just random guesswork, right? So, I mean, I don't know why didn't, maybe they decided to skip a few bucks and they didn't think they needed that, or maybe they said, hey, finish carpenters are kind of just, you know, drive some nails, and if it's sticking out too much or sticking out a little proud, they'll just turn it up a little bit, right? I don't know. But anyways, I want to make sure you did note that because it's there, all right? And if I haven't covered already, it's got good quality rubber hoses here. Almost all the hoses on here, at least the ones that take the pressure, seem to be made in USA, it seems like, right? It's a good quality rubber hose, and it's got the stainless steel cinch clamps. Kind of like those cinch clamps you see when people use PEX piping or whatnot. They kind of cinch the clamp on there. Not the copper compression clamps, but the cinch clamps, all right? Stainless steel. And while we're here at the top, it's got this air intake muffler system, or whatever you want to call it, okay? So 68 dBA. It's actually taking in air through here, through this little hose here, and then there's an air filter here. We'll take it out for you in a second and we can look at it. But because the air or the sound coming out of it has to go through this little tube here, it actually quiets it down quite a bit. It's a very interesting muffler type system because, I mean, without it, you can kind of really tell that it does get a little bit louder, and we'll do a demo about that a little bit later. So you can take this thing off. It comes off just like that. You can kind of see on the inside the little hose or piping or whatever you want to call it goes all the way to here. So it kind of really tries to keep that noise down. In here is the air filter, and here is the air filter. Seems like a pretty standard, you know, air filter, kind of blocking out, or should be filtering out a lot of the fine dust you may see. Maybe if you're using it in a place where you're like you know, sanding drywall or something like that, there's probably a lot of drywall dust. Anyways, that is pretty much the top part of it. All right. So let's take this out. Let's go to the back side. All right, on the back side, it's got obviously this nice, I don't know if it's nice, it's got a huge Milwaukee logo that's kind of black on black, okay? That was pretty interesting because I thought they would maybe want to make this like red or even white or something like that, you know, have the Milwaukee logo, but you know what? I don't really care. It's just there, all right? And on the back side, you can kind of see a little bit of the motor assembly and things like that, but same hoses, muffler system, nothing too interesting. On this though, you carry it by holding up this tank, okay? So, or this handle that's been welded onto this tank, which is interesting mainly because if you dropped it and it fell on this handle, it would kind of dent the tank or whatnot. You would think they would make the roll cage come all the way out past the tank such that the roll cage kind of protects the tank. I don't know why they didn't do that. Maybe they tried to make it compact as possible or whatnot, but that's how it's really designed. Here you'll see the quarter turn ball valve, and it's a pretty nice standard ball valve you see on most good quality compressors. And on the back or bottom, they have these rubberized feet here. It helps preventing from sliding off, and most importantly, it helps dampen the shock or the vibration that the compressor is creating when it's on, right? And when it's actually compressing air, okay? So here's the side of it. You kind of see like a fan motor assembly type deal here. Nothing too interesting if you didn't want to take a better look at it, but here is the underside or the side view of the compressor. All right. So if you're looking at it on the right side, you will see here is the quick connect. It's pretty standard quick connect. It's one of those where you just plug it in and it connects on. It's not like you have to hold it back and then compress it. And here is the safety pressure valve, just in case it exceeds too much pressure, it will let some of that out. All right, you guys, so let's get an idea of roughly how long it takes to fill up this 2-gallon tank from empty, okay? So here is a freshly charged brand, a full bar 12 amp hour battery, and the tank is completely empty right now. So let's see how long it takes to fill up. Here we go. All right, so it took roughly around 1 minute and 44 or 43 seconds, depending on how you want to look at it, in order for the compressor to fill up from being completely empty, okay? So 1.2 CFM at 9 or SCFM at 90 psi. I mean, it's not a lot. Like I said, it's really designed for like those small jobs, or if you're like a finish nailer and you're kind of working like a one person or maybe even a two person type job, right? It should be able to keep up no problem, I think. All right, you guys, so let's see what happens when we plug in this hose. So this hose right here is a 3/8 inch, 50-foot PVC poly hose, okay? Obviously it's not pressurized because it's now plugged in. Let's plug it in and see what happens, all right? All right, so we plugged it in. You probably can't see very well from the camera angle, but it has dropped to about 115-ish maybe. So it was able to fill or pressurize the hose without having to recover. So let me let some of it out and we'll see how long it takes to recover, okay? All right, so that took roughly around 27, 28-ish seconds, okay? So just, I mean, that's not great, but it's not too terrible either. You could make it work. All right, so now let's do a little bit of testing. This is just a scrap piece of 2x6. This is a 2.5 inch finish nailer, okay? Looks like operating pressure is between 70 and 110 PSI. And this is rated to use 16 gauge finish nails, okay? So for this test, we're gonna be using these Porter Cable 38 millimeter 1.5 inch galvanized finish nails, 16 gauge, all right? See what happens when we pressurize the gun here. Okay. All right, so let's see what happens. Okay, so that one right there sunk about 6 nails before having to recover, okay? So now I turned it down just a little bit because it was countersinking it just a little bit, which I mean, sometimes if you're doing finish work, you kind of want that. Maybe you could come back and fill it with, you know, wood filler or whatnot. That's probably like perfect, but that was rated at roughly around 90 PSI, okay? So let's try that again. This time, because the gun has already been pressurized, right? We'll do this side. Here we go. All right, you guys, so I mean, that's pretty much a quick recap of what's really going on here. Like I said, it works generally pretty well. It's really meant to bridge that gap, kind of like a small specialty tool that you kind of have to use in a cordless shed or maybe like some finish work. So it will drive about, was it like 10 1.5 inch, 38 millimeter, 16 gauge finish nails without having to recover. Takes roughly like 26, 27, 28 seconds to recover once it does kick on. So with that being said, you could probably, like I said, do like a 1 or 2 man finish work type job and kind of keep up with it. I mean, it kind of has to go. It does have a duty cycle if you look at the manual, so make sure you do look at that. Although I guarantee most of the people using it are probably not going to look at that. So now let's talk about the good and the bad. So good news is it's a cordless quiet compressor. I mean, it's fairly light. You pick it up and you can really go with it. The only other one that I know of right now, or only other two I think that exist that I know of, it's going to be the FlexVolt DeWalt pancake style one, or the other Ryobi one that kind of looks like this that takes like an 18-volt battery or something like that, right? So those are only other two I think that are battery powered cordless compact compressor that exists on the market. So it doesn't have too much competition, but it does exist there, okay? So like I said, the good news is it is very portable. So in case we use it to kind of fill up balloons with like an air hose. So you just kind of carry it to like a party, fill up a bunch of balloons, no problem, right? It does work decently well for that, although the tank is kind of small for something like that. If you do, or if you are going to be using it quite a bit, and you really want the cordless option, you really want this or something like that, you could probably buy like a 5-gallon or a 3-gallon or whatever size piggyback tank. If you don't know what that is, just another tank that you attach to the regulated pressure on here, and it kind of fills up that tank, kind of giving you more capacity of compressed air that's already ready to go, right? So the initial fill up will take a while, and when it recovers, it will take a while. But depending on how you work and what kind of volume of air you need in certain spurts, it could help, right? 2 gallons plus 5, you have like a 7-gallon setup or something like that. So like I said, portable, compact, light, and it comes in roughly around $350-ish, okay? And that's generally the price you would really pay for something like this, or at least the Milwaukee product. Other brands seem to be a little bit cheaper, but let's say who would really use this, right? Like I said, maybe somebody who's got that special tool, or maybe you need to winterize pipes or pressure test pipes or plumbing or whatever it may be. Because the reason I'm really thinking about that is mainly because, I mean, you would really have to have like a really awesome nail gun that you really like to kind of go into investing in something like this, I would think, mainly because Milwaukee and like all the other general bigger brands kind of make cordless battery powered nail guns, right? Whether it be Finish, Brad, Stapler, whatever it is. And those guns usually somewhere between, depending on the brand, will come in around $200-ish to like $300-ish tool only. So one of those guns will obviously replace this, and you don't have to carry out the hose and the battery, or you don't have to carry out the hose and the tank and things like that. Because, I mean, sure, you've made the compressor cordless because you could be on a job site that doesn't have power or whatever, right? But you still have to deal with the hose hanging off the gun, right? So there is that. Obviously, if you buy 2 finished nail guns, it's going to be pretty much the cost of this, maybe depending on if you can get those on sale or whatnot. So do think about that if you are going to buy something like this, okay? So for me, it works generally pretty well for me, filling up really small like car tires, like compact passenger car tires, like whether it's, let's say, a Toyota Corolla or something like that, right? But if you're trying to fill up truck tires with this, it's definitely going to be the wrong tool for the job. It's going to kick on a lot, and you're going to have to keep that pressure. Remember, truck tires will take a higher pressure. Some of them take like 80. Some of them can take like up to 100 depending on what kind of truck and things that you got and what kind of tire size you got. And this is only 2-gallon rated, and it has 135 max PSI. So for small compact cars, you could probably fill it up if you want to use it to fill up, you know, those tires. But for a truck tire, you're definitely wrong tool for the job. You want to get either a larger air compressor like a Rollair or Ingersoll Rand, kind of like those like 20-gallon, 30, 40, 50-gallon compressors, or just get like an air compressor, you know, like a air tire inflator type deal. I probably wouldn't use it to fill up like large toys, like balloon toys or whatnot, like a pool toy, because those will take, you know, high volume of air, and this only runs at 1.2 SCFM at 90 PSI, okay? The only other one I could really compare this to that I use a lot on a regular basis is that Makita, what does it call it, like core, big core, or whatever you want to call it, compact compressor. And that one you can get on sale roughly around like $150-ish maybe, 180 sometimes when it goes on sale. And that one, it's powered. I mean, you got to plug it in, AC outlet, but it will recover significantly faster, and it's got the big bore engine on top that you kind of have to, that's kind of heavy, right? And it does take oil, so you do have to oil it up. Usually old compressors are quieter in general, but that one I think works really well, and that's pretty much the workhorse I really use. And sometimes I add a piggyback tank to you know, if you have like a large framing job or something like that. Anyways, so that's pretty much an overview of this guy. What can I say? It's got a pretty small size market. I want to say a lot of people will buy into it because it is a Milwaukee thing. And for a cordless compact 18-volt compressor, it's a great compressor. I mean, you can't say anything about it. Just make sure that you know what you're getting and you know what job you want to use it for, okay? So, like I said, hope this video helped you guys out, and we'll see you guys next time.